Shame is not merely an emotion. It can be so deeply and developmentally rooted, it becomes the basis from which you operate. Shame is sneaky, and it lies. It hides in perfectionism, people-pleasing, overfunctioning, and that tiny voice that tells you you are never enough. If you're tired of shame running the show, join me for a deep dive workshop where we learn what shame actually is, how it operates in the mind and body, and most importantly, how to loosen its grip and call it out for the liar that it is. This workshop is practical, empowering, and trauma-informed. Real tools to reclaim your worth and rewrite your self-talk. If you're ready to step into a healthier story, sign up at theedifygroup.com.
This episode discusses sexual addiction, pornography, and other delicate issues. Please be advised and use discretion.
This is Hungry for Healing. Real people, real pain, real peace. I'm Becky Wengreen, a marriage and family therapist, sharing stories that nourish, edify, and heal, reminding us that even in heavy darkness, we can expect light to come. Hello, and welcome to Hungry for Healing. Today we're here with Dr. Rance Hutchings, and he is a pharmacist, and he has got some really interesting things to talk to us about concerning mental health. He deserves us to know about where he's coming from because he's impressive. So, Rance Hutchings has a doctorate in pharmacy and is a licensed advanced practice pharmacist clinician. He has specialized in mental health and men's health for 25 years, including depression, anxiety, addiction, and sexual health in men. He holds 3 international certificates in men's health and has authored 3 books on men's health and pornography addiction, including a booklet on overcoming addiction that this presentation is based on. Professionally, he is a physician educator and has taught physicians, therapists, nurses, and other medical professionals for 25 years. He taught at BYU in the nursing and nurse practitioners programs, as well as teaching men's health class at UVU. He has a passion for helping men struggling with pornography addiction and has been a mentor for over 15 years. And I originally heard you at my ward when you presented, and I loved the information. As a mom and some education as far as sex addiction. And this is totally fascinating. So good. Tell me about, now you have a nonprofit, and tell me about that first, and then we'll go into what you want to talk about today.
Yeah, we're starting a new nonprofit called Iron Bridge Way. And so that's just set up to help men be able to see progress as they make their way through addiction. I think a lot of things especially with pornography addiction, there's a lot of things we do that are very well intended that tend to be counterproductive. Like, hey, how many days can you go between slips? And I'm sure we're going to be talking about that sort of stuff when really it's progress and movement towards recovery. And sometimes we need to see that recovery better. So we're doing a nonprofit, launching an app that will actually help men log their progress so that they can see progress where they're making it. Even if they're still slipping just as often, but they're not slipping as severely or as long.
Right.
Like that.
And it can be so discouraging. In your experience, is this the addiction of our time? I mean, do you think there's others?
Yes.
Or
for men, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, the rates are really, really high. It's kind of hard to figure out what the rates are, but we think that probably over 90% of men will struggle at some point. Like if, the rising generation will struggle at some point or be exposed to it. But, as many as half of young single adult men may be struggling at any one given time. And I think we kind of lump everything together as pornography addiction and say that's what it is, when actually there's some more nuances to it. And not a lot of men are actually addicted to pornography. They participate in pornography viewing, but they may not be addicted to the pornography itself. Other things may be at play that are involved in sexual addiction. So kind of getting to the root.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you do that? How do you know? How do you get to the root?
So for me, after years and years, it took me quite a while. I think it's easy for us to say pornography. That's an easy word to use, and we think that we know what that means, but that can mean a lot of different things. But most men are involved in masturbation and pornography at the same time, which are 2 completely different things. but they tend to go together like 99%
Yeah.
of the time. But I would say in our experience, we're starting to see that probably 90% of men have a baseline addiction of masturbation and 10% have a baseline addiction of pornography. And then they just use the other to enhance. So when we get to looking at men, I always try to figure out, now, are you a porn baseline addict? Are you a masturbation baseline addict? And if they're a masturbation baseline addict and they're enhancing with pornography, then it becomes simple. It's like, well, it's easier to give up your enhancer first. So let's just work on the pornography piece of this addiction and let's overcome that first. And there's ways that we can do that. Just because you're slipping, you don't need to slip for a half hour. You know, can we make this slip last 5 minutes? Or at some point in this slip, do you have the capacity to put your phone down? You know, and then they do. And they put it down at 2 minutes, and then they put it down at 30 seconds. And then pretty soon they see something that's pornographic and they can put it down right away. And then that may not lead to masturbation.
Gotcha.
So we just kind of work our way out bit by bit. That at least that's what I've seen as being successful. So I think the first thing that I always do is I do a presentation with guys and I help them understand what's going wrong with the brain. Because I look at this, addiction is a disorder of the brain, and it's a disorder of the dopamine producing parts of the brain. So I think when guys get this idea of, hey, I've got two structures in my brain and they are out of balance. And I need to simply, it's like running on a sprained ankle. I need to stop running on the sprained ankle, or I need to run this way, or I need to do these things in order for them to heal. And it's not me that's weak, it's my brain that's out of balance. And that's why I have these cravings or other things. What can we do? And then we fix those things. So I think, first of all, understanding what addiction is. And what goes on helps them understand that it's not some moral weakness and I'm a failure and every time I slip, I'm just not strong enough. They can actually kind of go back and go, all right, this is not working in my brain and I need to take these baby steps so that heals better.
So define addiction in your in this context. How would you define
really
it?
Snotty. So for me, addiction is a dopamine disorder between the ventral tegmental area, or the VTA, which is in the limbic system, and the nucleus accumbens. And I just refer to them as the VTA and the NAC. One produces dopamine, one is the party center and accepts the dopamine and is the reward center. And I think when guys, these two structures, they're part of our chemical makeup because they're involved in something called reinforcing behavior. So reinforcing behaviors, if we go back to like hunter-gatherer times, right? I tell guys, I'm like, men are more susceptible to this than women. We don't know why, but they have a stronger propensity. But if you were going to go hunt, it's cold, tiring. Most attempts are going to end in failure. So the thrill of the kill has to outweigh all of those failures, and that's involved in these
and the risk
structure. Yeah, and all the risk.
Yeah.
And so that reward, that gets involved with the nucleus accumbens and a big dump from the VTA. And so that makes, hey, I like to hunt. Do you really like to hunt? Because it really is cold and you really are going to fail most of the time, right? And there's a lot of risk involved. So it's just those kinds of things.
Yeah. So it's what it's doing to your brain that is keeping you in that behavior.
Yes.
In the hunting behavior or in the rewarding behavior.
Yeah. And I mean, if we look at the hunting, I mean, that's gambling addiction, right? I mean, most slots don't pay out. It's, so it's fail, 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 win. And when we get to sex addiction, I mean, we're talking about sex is probably the most there's more failure in sexual activity than anything else. If we're just looking at success, right? Women are fertile less than 10 hours a month. Most sexual encounters do not end in pregnancy. If a guy has more kids, there's more mouths to feed. If we're in a hunter-gatherer society, there's a lot of negatives, right? So there has to be that reinforcement from, how does sexual activity feel? It's rewarding. It stimulates those two structures.
But that's if you want it to result in a pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
That it's a pass or fail, right?
Yeah.
But if you are just after the orgasm or the arousal,
Yes, but that's what comes in. That's what stimulates the nucleus accumbens, which
Okay.
would keep a guy coming back, even if there's going to be the negative consequence of more
Okay.
mouths to feed, or we can't have children, or whatever it is. And so it just gets involved in that same part of the brain.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
so porn addiction is really the hijacking of the survival of the species portion of
Yeah.
that whole limbic system thing.
Okay.
And I think when guys get that, then they're like, okay, well, I've got a VTA that doesn't produce enough dopamine. I've got a knack that wants too much dopamine. If I can reduce my behavior, those things will start balancing out. And then at some point, I won't have addiction. I'll have a habit or I'll have a controllable behavior. And then all of these other levers that I'm trying to do actually do work.
Okay, but it's understanding that whole process,
Yeah.
right? That is so important. And
Yeah.
when I was reading through your booklet, it was the distance between the huge dopamine release and then this drop. It was that,
Yes.
right, that
Yeah.
I saw was really the problem. It's this regulation problem.
Yeah, because all of us dance along with highs and lows in
Yeah.
dopamine. We dance around in this normal range, but for an addict,
Yeah.
they don't produce enough dopamine, right? Their VTA is too small, so they'll get into the craving zone. And so the only way their brain knows how to get back up is to have a slip.
And then they
they
go
go up,
way back up.
then they go way up. So they're kind of crossing through normal.
Yeah.
You know, if we look at it from a mental health standpoint, we see similar things with bipolar disorder, right? People are moving from mania to depression, and they kind of pass through what would be a normal mental, normal mental status as they go through. And that's what addicts kind of go through. They go through euphoria and high to severe cravings, but between the two, they will cross through normal. And our goal is to keep them in that normal range longer and longer and longer until those structures heal. So,
And so do you think that it's important for them to accept that they're an addict? And this is where there's a little controversy in that many programs want an addict to just say, I'm an addict and I'll be an addict for the rest of my life. And I have to accept that to then go on and heal, because that means I have to just take certain measures to keep myself in check. But you have a little different
I have a little
idea
bit
of that, and I
different, right?
I
And I'm not
really
a therapist. I'll say, first of all, I would rather say I have a disease called addiction.
yeah.
And while I have it, I know that I need to pull these certain levers. Now, I am not one who thinks that, okay, once an addict, always an addict. I mean, if we're looking at this from a gospel standpoint, that makes the atonements feel like it's perhaps like limited in some fashion.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's true. And so, while you have this addiction, or while you have this disease and it's at this severity, then, I do have to accept that slips are probably going to happen, but what can I do about those? Or what can I do during a slip to reduce how severe it is so that I can walk out of this a little faster? Because I think with addiction, a lot of people are like, well, I'm slipping, so I'm just going to throw in the towel.
Nothing I can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if we say, oh, I'm an addict, then that takes away, some responsibility. All right, you may have addiction. I don't call people an addict. You have addiction. Well, what can you do? Are you slipping 2 hours at a time? Can we slip? Do you have the agency, at least at this point in your addiction, to slip less than a half hour? And then maybe a few months from now to slip less than 10 minutes. And then maybe down the road to slip without pornography, just masturbation, or vice versa. Can we separate those two?
Yeah. And you were in a YSA ward, right? Where you were supporting, and is that what really got you interested in this aspect?
Yeah, I think that did, because before I did a lot of mental health and addiction, but it was drug addiction. And so I'm like, okay, I know drug addiction. But it was serving in a young single adult ward. I was the clerk, and sometimes the bishop would just ask me questions. Hey, is this normal for a guy? I got a kid who's struggling with XYZ, or especially when I got into the family ward and I was serving in a bishopric, our bishop would be like, hey, do you mind mentoring? I don't have enough time to kind of do all the guys in the ward. And so I think it was then that I started realizing, okay, something more is going on here. And I'm thinking that pornography addiction is something different. But if we look chemically, there's no difference between a narcotic addiction and a porn addiction. Because in pornography addiction, we're addicted to endorphins.
But the body's creating it's
making its own morphine.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I'm looking at this different. I'm like, okay, as a pharmacist, how do I deal with drug addiction? I don't tell a heroin addict, hey, let's see how many days you can go between balloons of heroin, right? We're like, no, you're using 100 milligrams of morphine a day. Let's see if you can use 80. And then let's take you to 60.
Yeah.
And let's take you to 40 to 20. And then we've got you to a point where you're no longer addicted. The centers of the brain have healed. Now you can make the choices. I'm not going to use anymore. Okay. And once we started doing that with pornography addicts and just let's reduce your dose, let's reduce the time you spend, let's separate porn from masturbation, let's do all these things to reduce the dose. Then we get guys to a certain point, and then they do have the agency to just be like, nah.
So do you see many that don't have the dual addiction?
No.
They
Rarely.
Yeah, they pretty much just
Rarely
go together.
Every once in a while, I'll see someone who has had the foresight enough to go, these two things are different, and I've been able to eliminate pornography, but I still struggle with masturbation. And sometimes when I do see that, there's oftentimes a reproductive tract disorder that's actually masturbation's gone. I see that every once in a while, but porn without masturbation, I almost never, ever see that.
Yeah.
The two are always together.
Right. And what I found so interesting, and this is such a delicate topic, so I think it's just so needed, is how you talk about the function, because you're talking about trying to lower the addictive behaviors and get the body back into that rhythm. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, in guys, right, when masturbation comes into play, then all of a sudden, or any sort of sexual activity that ends in ejaculation, we're always disrupting the wet dream pattern. And for teenage boys, young single adults, and that's, a huge chunk of who we're talking about with this addiction, we've just hijacked the system. And so the body's like, I don't need to perform that function anymore. So what I've found is usually if we can get guys to a point where their addiction decreases, and then we get the frequency spread out after that to where the body's like, hey, I need to kick in. Usually when guys start having wet dreams again, they typically will not slip anymore.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's a body regulation.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's like, all right, I know it's been really hard for you to go 2 weeks and you can't imagine your life with going the rest of your life without having a slip. But once the body starts self-regulating, physical temptation goes down, all of those sorts of things, which for 85% of guys, the body will kick in within. We did a study. We found that 85% of men will have a wet dream within 3 weeks after stopping external sexual activity that could cause ejaculation.
And that tends to be like this magic number, right?
Yeah, I call it the catapult point. It's really weird. Like as soon as people have reduced their if they reduce their dose and then just naturally they can go 3 weeks without white knuckling, right? This is not white knuckling. It's like, okay, slips just kind of start happening less than 3 weeks. That may be a little bit of push, maybe a tiny bit of white knuckling, but I can make it through. The body kicks in and suddenly I just see those guys sail on their way out of addiction. So usually once we hit that 3 weeks, that's a good point. So I tell people that's our goalpost. Our goalpost is 3 weeks. It's not 3 years. It's if we can get you to 3 weeks, then your brain is healed to a point where this is now more of a controllable behavior or habitual. You're not being forced into this because of that reinforcing behavior. You're not, all of these different things.
How does that work when there's a pornography issue and you're married?
So very good question. So one of the things that we do for dose reduction is lust, because really the addiction is lust, right? I mean, we talk about pornography as something that we view, well, what if somebody's masturbating and having super lustful thoughts? There's really not that big of a difference of watching something new versus replaying something from memory. So a lot of times what I'll do is once they're just having issues with masturbation, we'll start talking about, can you start controlling your thoughts? And for married couples, can you stay in the moment? Is your head filled, when you are sexually active, are you replaying pornography or are you, in the moment? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you with your spouse in the
Mm-hmm.
moment? And that kind of changes things because a lot of guys are like, no, pornography is when I pick up my phone and go to a certain website and I watch something. But really, pornography is anything that inappropriately arouses,
Yeah.
whether that's a memory thought or lusting after someone or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I work with that. We work a lot with lust,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, in marriage, what are you lusting after? I mean, is this consensual and we're enjoying our relationship with each other, or is this you're an object, you're fulfilling a need? Where's the
Mm-hmm.
lust in that? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of peeling the lust out of that can help a lot as well.
And would you say that that takes a lot of awareness?
Yes.
I'm interjecting that. I'm thinking, you've got to be really aware of when that is a lustful thought and when it's healthy desire, because pornography is imitating that connection,
Yes.
correct? It's
Yes.
just, it's counterfeit.
Yes. It's cotton candy
Yeah.
instead of real nutrition. And a lot of people, almost every guy is like, well, I can usually go this long without a slip. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I'm worried about. On average, how often are you slipping a week or a month? How long are those slips?
Mm-hmm.
What are you viewing? Are these videos? Are these still pictures? Are these, somebody in a swimsuit? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what intensity is the lust?
Okay, that was my next question.
And then from there, we kind of create a scoring system, which is, what we're working on in our app so that people can kind of see. And it's like, hey, your baseline score is X. And it's really interesting. Like some guys, they'll be like, my average slip is 2 hours. Well, do you think you can get that lower? And I've had somebody go from 2 hours to 10 minutes a slip in a week. And then after a couple of weeks, all of a sudden, naturally, instead of a slip every day, it's a slip every 2 or 3
Mm-hmm.
days. And then there's no pornography,
Mm-hmm.
or the pornography gets put down after about 5 minutes, then 1 minute. And then once there's that much control, pornography is not involved. And then we work on the lustful thoughts. And then, pretty soon they're like, I have a lustful thought. And then I'm like, I don't need to slip. Then that's what's rewarding is as they take these little wins during slips, that's what I try to get them to do. When you're slipping, what are you thinking? At what point can you put the phone down? At
Yeah.
what
When do
point?
you have control back?
Yeah. At what point can you go, hey, I can extend this another half hour or I can end this slip?
Mm-hmm.
And when they feel like they have control in the moment rather than they're just, oh, I'm slipping, I've already thrown in the towel, then they really start getting, I don't know, hope. They're like, they walk away
Mm-hmm.
faster than you would think.
Mm-hmm. Do you, and I think I know the answer to this, but I just want your comments on, do you have people coming to you out of obligation and what's the difference in somebody that really wants to stop
Yeah.
and somebody that's just like, well, I guess this is something I need to figure out.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. Most people who come to me are young single adults who may have heard or read my book or, somebody
Mm-hmm.
shared it with them. And they're like, is there any chance you could meet with me? All of them want to. Now, if a kid is there because his mom heard about me, I'm telling you, it goes nowhere.
Okay.
Ever.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought I knew the answer,
I just
but.
feel like that doesn't go anywhere. You really have to want this.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, that may take a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's all about agency. At what point do you want this to be gone? Because it does take work.
Yeah.
It takes effort.
What do you say to someone who says it's just my problem? It's not hurting anybody else.
Oh, that's untrue. Like, there's no way that can be true, right? Does this hurt your future spouse? Yes. Does it cause concern in the parents? Yes. Does it affect your relationship with your friends? Well, yeah, because you're taking time out of, everything else. You as a therapist, right? I mean, as a mentor, as a therapist, not that you take on the weight, but there's a little bit of, empathy. When there's empathy there, you do take a little bit of that weight on. And so it's like, no, what you're doing does affect other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm invested in you and I care what happens about you.
Well, the amount of shame, I think shame is a magic bullet for mental health. I
Yeah.
think if we know and identify the shame in ourselves and the shameful messages, we can change so much about our behavior. And
Yeah.
because there is so much shame associated with pornography, I see that really affecting relationships. In that if I'm carrying shame and I lash out, I don't take responsibility, I want to blame everybody else, I deflect, I misuse, I'm very selfish, right? There's a lot of really non-relational habits that come with the shame. And because there's so much shame in pornography, that's where I see so much harm coming from that addiction. I mean, addiction in general can be very, very harmful, but this one
And I think
is,
too, and maybe this is where I'm a little different. I don't want men to be, I hope like when they meet with me as a mentor that they never feel ashamed.
yes. Well,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that actually changes things because sure their behavior has effects on others, but when shame isn't involved and it's a very hopeful thing, then you get to see the wins. Not only do I know the heavy stuff, I also know the wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen men who have gone from 40 hours of pornography consumption a week to they have zero pornography consumption within 3 months. And they're hardly slipping at all. And when they do, it may be masturbation every second
Mm-hmm.
week while they're waiting for these wet dreams to come back.
Yeah.
And you're just like so excited for them because all of a sudden they're, hey, I feel like I can go to my bishop and talk to him about a temple recommend I haven't been to. Right. So
Mhm.
so when the shame isn't there, you also
Yes.
get to be involved in the joy that follows
Yes.
out.
And removing that shame, again, like I say, I think it's a magic bullet in that it carries so much shame, but it doesn't need to. I mean,
No.
it's because of the area that it's around. So it's heavy. It feels so heavy, but it's so understandable on so many levels, given our world that that you could fall into this
Yeah.
somehow. It's so understandable.
It's hard not to fall into.
Yeah.
At this point. And and this is where I don't know, I might be taking a tangent here, but we're starting to see more and more youth who are used to AI. And so now they're using AI as a therapist, right? And I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not a therapist. I'm a mentor. I'm your buddy. I'm here to give you, I'm here to listen to whatever. I can tell you what I've seen work. But if you have a behavioral issue or using this as a coping mechanism, I need to get you to a therapist. I'm not trained in that. I'm a pharmacist. I know the chemical side, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can explain your
Mm-hmm.
body to you, all of those sorts of things. But what we're seeing is they're going to AI. Well, what is the world teaching about pornography? The world teaches that pornography is a completely normal, natural thing, and it's a part of normal sexual development. So there's all these, not only is pornography widely available, but if you go outside of faith communities, it can actually be, why are you trying to fix that? There's no need to try to fix that.
Right.
All
Right.
these false messages.
It's like I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah,
It's just me.
so there's the two opposites. There's the shame and there's the nonchalantness, right?
Yeah.
And those are the two danger zones.
Mm-hmm.
The real good place is healthy accountability and looking at progress and hope
Mm-hmm. Without shame.
without shame.
Without shame. Just like, yep, this is where I am. This is what we need to do. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. How do I get there?
Yeah.
And we're just going to cheer you on.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think people think sometimes they need shame to be repentant, which is not true. I mean, for me, gospel according to Rance, I feel like repentance is change. And if you're progressing, that is change,
for sure.
right?
Even the slightest bit.
Right. So then you're moving towards that. You're like, but see, you're changing that. And that's always the best bits. You're changing. And even when there's a step, I always say it's always 3 steps forward, 1 step back. And a lot of guys, if they're involved in shame, they'll have a slip after a good stretch. And then they'll be like, well, I'm back at square one. Well, no, you're not. If you remember, if we were at 40 hours, we were at 16 hours a week of pornography,
Right.
and you're telling me that you had 3 minutes of pornography this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
16 hours and 3 minutes is not the same.
Right.
Even though you haven't seen porn for 2 weeks, we're still moving. This is 3 steps forward, 1 step
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
This 1 step back of 3 minutes is not
Is not
where you
that.
were.
Yeah. I do that consistently with my clients sometimes when they feel like, "Oh, no, I thought I was doing better." And it's like, well, if you were on a mountain, sometimes you have to look down and see where you've come, right?
Yes.
Wow, did I climb that? It's like, "My gosh, I climbed that." It's like, "Yeah, you did. You might have stumbled a little bit, but look where you've been, and let's see the trail that you've come up because it's pretty impressive." And no, are you perfect and totally done? No.
Yeah.
But look what you've done
Yeah.
to this point.
And streaks, I mean, I just think streaks are the most counterproductive thing, right?
Mm.
Because then that doesn't allow you to see that top of the mountain scenario,
Mhm.
right? I've had guys who I haven't heard from for months and months, and then they have their first slip with pornography after 4 or 5 months. Okay, well, that wasn't an addictive slip. What's going on in your life, you know?
Sure.
Super stressed out day. It was
Situational.
right. It was a
Mhm.
situational coping mechanism. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, before your slip today, you were stage 1. I often stage people like on average, how often do you slip? Not how many days between, once every 4 to 6 months, those short types of things.
Mhm.
You were
Mhm.
stage 1 before and you're still stage 1 now. So
Mhm.
we haven't gone from 150 days to 0 days. I was just watching a movie the other night and it's like I'm back on day 2, after like being, sober for like 3 years. And I was like, what a totally horrible thing.
Yeah.
What a totally horrible thing to think like, oh no, I've lost 4 years of progress. No, you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And so what do you think, and let's talk about different roles of support that we can play. We've got mothers, we've got fathers, we've got wives or husbands, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what can each of those do? And even, you talk a lot about bishops and bishops are going to vary
Yes.
a
A lot.
lot.
A lot. But they're just coming from their own
Right.
what they know, right?
Yeah.
And I mean we all come from a different part of what we know.
Sure.
Um, when we're talking about, say, a young single adult or a young man, I think that there's various levels. I think dad is the best yoked person that they can have in their life if dad is willing to be that person, and if dad's willing to be vulnerable enough.
And do the dads know? Do the dads know? I mean, the things in that booklet, I'm like, wow, I don't know. Though these things I didn't know, and I feel pretty educated. And do dads know? Do husbands know?
Yeah. I always feel like it should be an adult of the same gender, should be
Okay.
their reporting buddy.
Mm-hmm.
For moms who have a son that's struggling, she becomes the sexual anchor. And so really being up in the business of the addiction, I've found has not been helpful.
When you
Like,
say sexual anchor, what does that mean?
so if a young man is able to have a good, healthy relationship with his mother, she is somebody he will not sexualize. And that is what we call
Okay.
a sexual anchor.
Okay.
And so sisters can have the same role. So
Mm-hmm.
sisters can have the same role. So they don't sexualize their mother, they don't sexualize their sister. And if they have a good relationship with her outside of their addiction, then when they get married, she becomes the anchor that allows them to not sexualize every woman that they walk across. Because a lot of guys, right, with pornography addiction learn to sexualize like every woman that
Yep.
walks down the street
Mm-hmm.
at times.
Mm-hmm.
So she creates that point. But if she gets too involved in the addiction, sometimes that kind of gets all sticky because she's part of
Too
this
blurry.
addiction.
Mm.
And it's the opposite. If a girl is struggling with pornography addiction, mom is the best one to get in the weeds with her because dad is the sexual anchor that sits outside and has the good father-daughter relationship. So I'm always big into, adult of the same gender
Okay.
as being the mentor. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of the role that plays. And then as far as bishops go, I always say it's worthiness and it can be accountability. I think they should hold them accountable, right? As a mentor, I can't tell you whether or not you can take the sacrament or not. That's something you need to talk to your bishop about. But it's also this thing of, well, I don't know that it's their responsibility the bishop's responsibility to fix that all. We don't expect bishops to fix diabetes. We don't expect them to fix depression and anxiety disorders, right? So it's like helping with the worthiness part and then letting professionals or people who have been trained to help with the addiction part. Because it is a disease. So we just need to treat it
But
like
there's a moral issue involved, and that's why the bishop is
and
there.
that's why the bishop's involved.
But the other piece is the disease.
Yeah.
That needs another professional.
Yeah. So I've loved working with bishops who understand that, like, okay, I'm working on the moral piece of this. I'm working on the spiritual healing from this. Then I can get into the weeds of helping with the chemical healing and the physical healing.
Yeah. The chemical healing is so fascinating to me because it is so, would you say it's it's the same for most addictions? It's just.
Yeah. I mean, it follows the same process. I mean, narcotic and pornography addiction, totally.
Because the process that you explained in the brain, it's doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing from the chemical standpoint is when we look at guys who have a really hard time, it's not uncommon for them to have ADHD, which is also a dopaminergic disorder.
Yes. Right.
And so, so sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe if we treated your ADHD with the correct medications to get your dopamine into normal range, you're going to be able to overcome this addictive behavior even easier. Because now you're not battling two things at once. I mean, a lot of those guys actually slip to concentrate. I mean, I've worked with men who honestly are like, I cannot study until I've had a slip. Okay, you don't have enough dopamine.
Yeah.
But they don't know that.
Right.
They're not thinking about that but as you go through, it's like, so why do you slip at like 3:30 in the afternoon? That's kind of an odd time because usually testosterone's higher at night. Well, that's when most slips happen. So this isn't testosterone driven. Well, it's always before I study. Well, why is that? Do you study better after you've had a slip than not? And then they're like, well, yeah,
I do because my brain's back.
It's like, okay, it's because you got dopamine on board.
Yeah.
Do we have some ADHD? Let's get you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need to do homework in the morning. If you're opposed to medication, maybe you need to do your homework in the morning when you've got more dopamine on board.
And again, there's that awareness, right? You know what's going on, you understand yourself, and you see your own patterns. And I thought I would love to hear you too talk about the difference between dopamine and serotonin.
All right. Yes.
Because that was something because there's a difference. Take that. Go.
Okay. So pornography causes dopamine release, right? So anytime we do anything that it releases endorphin, that's going to cause the VTA to release dopamine. So that's a dopaminergic event.
Okay.
That increases feelings of well-being, concentration, focus, all of those sorts of things. Ejaculation releases serotonin. So when somebody masturbates to ejaculation, when they ejaculate, they'll release serotonin. That is sedating, calming, reduces anxiety, and causes drowsiness. So I can't tell you how many guys that I've talked to that have kind of weaned themselves off porn. And then we get to, when do you slip? Right before I go to bed. Can you sleep if you don't slip?
No.
They've gotten themselves into this serotonin issue where they actually require serotonin release to fall asleep. Well, then we can start working with that, rather through medication or just weaning someone off, like weaning someone off of their morning caffeine in order to function more appropriately.
And that is so important because if you have a boy with ADHD and you put them on an SSRI, that is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, right?
Yeah.
Then what's that going to do?
So SSRIs slow sexual function, and so it can make slips last longer, and it can inhibit wet dreams.
Okay, so that's not a good idea.
Unless they have some serotonergic deficiency, right?
Okay.
We know that we have like anxiety or depression that's being driven by that. And then are they slipping as a self-medication in order to get serotonin? Well, in that case, yes. But in a lot of cases, a lot of guys that have issues with with addiction, drugs like bupropion, which actually help increase dopamine, that helps with focus, and that can help regulate. So those big spikes we were talking about, where our body's able to process and keep dopamine in that normal range better. So I've actually seen guys who have been like, I'm just kind of on this roller coaster, but they do have depression or they have ADHD. They're going to go see their provider. So sometimes I'll work with their provider. Is there a way that we can maybe try bupropion? See if that will
And
help.
that's Wellbutrin,
Wellbutrin.
right?
And guys that are like, wow, my cravings went way down for porn, like way down. Well, it's because you're dancing in the normal range.
You got the chemicals you needed in the brain.
Now you don't need to slip in order to get the chemicals, or you crave when you don't have enough dopamine. Now that that's over with, that changes things.
So what about an SNRI?
So SNRIs, so serotonin, norepinephrine, those get involved mostly the same as serotonin. So norepinephrine can turn into dopamine, but it's a roundabout way, but usually the serotonin is much stronger, like venlafaxine, duloxetine that are SNRIs. There's more serotonin effect in those drugs than there is norepinephrine. So I put them in the category as an SSRI.
But you would say that Wellbutrin is probably the one that you see as most effective in curbing
addiction. And we use it for smoking cessation for people that don't have depression, anxiety. When people have a lot of anxiety, sometimes another thing that we'll use is a drug called buspirone, or Buspar is the brand name. And that medication actually is sexually enhancing. So in guys that, maybe are getting to that point where, hey, I need an SSRI, but I do need to, but it's inhibiting wet dreams and that sort of stuff. Every once in a while, buspirone at bedtime can help. There's also an antihistamine called cyproheptadine. I'm not recommending any of these, but I've just seen these used, right? That it's anti-serotonergic and it causes some drowsiness. So sometimes if they take that before they go to bed, that will actually help resume natural male rhythms at night so that they can have a wet dream. But I mean, this is why it's important. I mean, we don't self-diagnose and all of this other things, but that's sometimes why having a medical professional or a therapist who knows about these medications can kind of go, hey, is there something that's going on that's causing issues?
Yeah.
Another thing that I'll give you too is people that have ADHD meds, if they do an immediate release product,
right,
that can actually have the same effect on the brain as a trigger, seeing a girl dressed immodestly or seeing,
because it's coming all at once,
a bunch of dopamine hits at once, and the nucleus accumbens can go, whoa, give me some more, So when we do things like bupropion, we always use the extended release to try to keep it from spiking. We want to have a good level all the way around without spiking. So sometimes that's why it's good to have good docs who know what they're doing, pharmacists, therapists.
Right.
We engage the right people. It's like diabetes. We engage people who deal with it day in and day out.
Right.
And then they can help us instead of just being like, oh, I won't have pie for dinner.
I would love to see more dads really be able to talk to their boys. What do you think that's going to take? Do you see that being that there is an issue? I mean, you're a dad.
I am a dad, and I didn't have any boys. I thought for sure.
But you have plenty that you mentor, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, having them step up and Dad, I am kind of calling you out here. I just feel like we need these strong, educated dads who can step into these really awkward places and talk about these really hard things, and that they want to be educated themselves so that they can, because our times are not the same. I mean, I was born in the 60s, and I mean, we just don't live in the same world. With what's going on with the pornography, and we need the dads to
come in. So
to engage.
I just wrote an article recently with someone from Gen Z. Sorry, Gen Z. I'm Gen X. Wait a second. Gen X is the best. No, but anyway.
I'm a boomer. Barely. I'm barely a boomer.
You seem Gen X to me. Okay, so, but what we learned was dads do feel like there's this big gulf. But if we keep in mind All right. Most porn addicts are masturbation baseline people, right? They just have an enhancer, and most of them can put that enhancer away. So when we look at, okay, that means 90% of young men are going to run into issues with this. Well, in my age bracket, 90 to 95% of men, and we've done studies on this in the church, out of the church, struggled with masturbation. So it's like, guess what, Dad? You think that this pornography problem is totally different than what you went through as a teenager and maybe you struggled with masturbation. It's not. It's actually the same thing. And if a kid is going to come out of this, they're most likely to follow their biological parent out of this. So, Dad, you are actually the one who has probably the best roadmap out of this for your kid. Because how did you overcome masturbation? It's going to be the way that he does it. And maybe all these things that we're pulling right now, you're scared of the porn bit, but we can get the porn bit taken care of. And then he's going to walk the exact same path out of this as you did. So you're the one that's going to be able to be the best one to help him. Not necessarily the bishop or, the counselor or the therapist. I mean, all of those people are important, but I think dads just miss this thought process that, no, he's probably going to come out the same way I did. Did it take me 6 weeks to have a wet dream? Did it take me 1 week to have a wet dream? He's more likely to be like me than anyone else he's going to talk to. So I really think dads miss an opportunity to help. In our age, if you went on a mission, it was don't reveal past transgressions. And I think a lot of those dads kind of have, well, I'm never going to tell him that I struggled with masturbation when I was a kid. Oh, that's exactly what your kid needs to hear. Exactly. It's like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not
Yes.
broken. Dad's amazing. He's
They-
the bishop, or he's been a bishop,
They
or,
do.
whatever.
Yes.
He has moved from A to B. He knows what it's like to feel broken. He can help me.
Yeah, they do need, and there's that stepping again out of shame into just, I don't need to be ashamed of being a human. I'm a human being, and this is a part of my body and my biology, and I need to figure out how to regulate it, and I need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
I need to know what my body's trying to tell me.
Yeah. But you can't be awkward, and I don't know how to get around that.
Right.
But my dad was not my dad was not that person, right? I remember asking my dad a men's health question once, and it didn't go well. And I was like, note to self, never ask dad anything like that again.
Shoot.
But my mom was really, really comfortable talking about stuff. And so it was just easy to talk about things. And I think that mothers should talk to boys about sexual matters, right? I mean, I think that's good, and that doesn't change her part as a sexual anchor. But I think the more comfortable we are just talking about things, from when they're little, especially like, if you're a new dad, okay, we start talking about puberty before puberty. When puberty's happening, we just talk about it as the most normal thing on earth.
If boys talk to each other, a good, healthy dad can influence more than just their son.
Yes.
Too.
Yes. Yeah.
Peers talk, and if they're not talking to their parents, they're talking to their friends. But if one of those friends has a good, healthy dad,
Yep,
that can talk to them, I mean, they're going to get
good information.
some good information, and that could be so helpful. How do we get, dads?
And I think dads can learn from moms. Moms tend to do this pretty well. I mean, we don't. I have this parallel, and I don't know if most guys think this, but like, I have a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked to her about what life changes would come when she, when she started menstruating or other things, right? And it's just factual. It just is what it is.
Right. You're not going to get around it.
Right. And so moms are good at talking to girls about that. How many dads have talked to their boys about a wet dream and what happens if it happens at like young men's camp?
Yeah.
There's all these like terrifying things of like, what if? Okay, well, Dad, if you're normal and you chat about it, we think that's maybe small and silly, but if we're talking about that, then when the kid has a problem with porn or masturbation, it's not this huge leap of this thing that we never talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It just sits right there with, hey, there's this. And if we're normal and we don't shame them,
right.
And especially, you, Dad, you had an issue as well, and you bring that up. Okay, that's not shaming. Now it's like, hey, I've been down a road like this before.
Yeah. and that this is so normal
We can
and
just-
expected.
We can just totally take care of this.
Yeah, and we know what to do, or
Yeah.
we'll find somebody
Yeah.
to help you know
Yeah.
what to do, because
Yeah.
this is our biology. This is just the way
Yeah.
we were created for a reason.
Yeah. And I think some guys actually start feeling like they should be ashamed when they have a sexual desire. And I'm like, if you were asexual, I would worry. That's what I tell most of the guys, right? They're like, oh, I thought this girl was cute. Well, I'm sort of glad you did, you know? That doesn't mean you need to lust after her, but I mean, come on, we're designed a certain way. We just need to put the boundaries around
Right.
it.
The cliche is you're playing with fire. Well, yes, fire is a good example, because fire can be both warming and helpful and life-saving, but in the wrong place, fire is extremely destructive. So how do we contain it? Where do we want fire and where do we not want fire? You know, and where is the healthy piece of your sexuality?
Yeah. And boys are good at modeling. Teens are good at modeling. Who are they going to model? Are they going to model dad? Are they going to model the jock at school? Are they going to model the porn star that they're viewing? Who are they modeling?
Oh, modeling is so
Right?
impactful.
So
Wow, powerful stuff.
I mean, that's why dads are important. And from a tiny age, moms too, right? It's the modeling that actually helps. So I would just say to dads, don't feel like your son's growing up in a completely different, like you're from Mars and they're from.
Not in that way, but I think the availability of porn is so different.
Yes.
And
so be aware.
Know your awareness.
Stuff. Know your stuff. And I think most dads think too that I think we have this idea of what people that are clothed, or it's just something that's lustful.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden we have these ideas of what's going on, and we may actually not know. So it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of pornography are you looking at? And if we normalize it like that, then we can be like, oh, okay, well, I can see how that would be intriguing. Is this a curiosity thing? And a lot of kids get involved with curiosity. Well, if you're answering questions about sexuality, curiosity goes away because all of a sudden it's factual knowledge.
That's right. Yes.
It's factual knowledge.
Yeah. And so some people think, oh, if I talk about it, then they're just going to view it more. It's like, no,
less.
Then you'll answer the question and they won't have to go, what the heck? No,
Yeah.
They won't have to wonder.
Yes. No, we're not giving kids any ideas. I've been there before. It's like, when is, in the old days, it's like, when is the chastity lesson? Oh, we skipped it. We don't want to give them any ideas. Really? Do you know that they go to junior high? And do you know what they talk about? You've got to be kidding me. No, we need to have the conversation.
Yeah, it is a different thing.
And especially
Definitely.
because parents can have the conversations that nobody else can. Parents can get into the details that nobody else can get into.
Yeah.
Right? It's difficult. Like as a mentor, I don't mentor people under the age of 18. It's too difficult for me as the friend to get into any sort of weeds like that, right? So I help young single adults, but I don't help young men.
Mm-hmm.
Dad has to do that. There's just too many.
But you can help dad.
Right. We can help dad.
You can help dad to help which is appropriate.
That's the best way.
Yeah. That's an appropriate way, but to help dads get educated so that they know how to normalize and what is shaming, what is going to be shaming and what is going to be more healthy. And because it does get scary to talk about that and keep your own shame in check.
Yeah. Yep.
And if dad's had a pornography issue in the past, can he be a healthy person to go and talk to them about this? And, what do they say? What do they not say? And so just that education and awareness is so important. That's why I loved what I read that you wrote, that was so much of it was very biological and much of it is also morally based, because we are both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we have that background and we have that passion too.
Right.
That Christ can heal anything.
Right. And dads need to know they have a support network, right? Dad, you don't know what to do? All right. Ask your church leader. Ask your buddies.
Yeah. Find help.
You can't think that my kid is the only one that is struggling with porn. That's just untrue, right? Everybody has a wealth of resources. Hey, here's a great book that I've read. Here's a therapist that I've gone to. Maybe you can get some ideas. I think men have a hard time sometimes with therapy as well, right? Like
Oh,
this,
definitely.
these stigma around therapy, and that shouldn't be the case. Maybe you're not going for yourself, but maybe you need some tools. I need tools on how to communicate well with my kid. There seems to be this barrier between me and my kid. They're like, don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, maybe we can talk about that, and then you can break through that barrier, and then it's more natural for you to be able to help them.
Yeah.
So it's just dad needs to be a little vulnerable and then willing to help.
And that takes courage.
Yeah.
It does. It takes a lot of courage.
So I'm a big dad fan.
I like it. Me too.
I'm
I
probably
mean,
lucky that I didn't have boys. They would probably be like, Dad, stop.
too much.
Stop being in my business. I guess if I just ended with one thing, and I think it was the meeting that I met you,
Mm-hmm.
someone came up afterwards and they're like, I've never heard of pornography addiction as hopeful. And like that broke my heart because I was like, actually, it's the most hopeful thing in the whole world. There's so much hope. Once an addict, not always an addict.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what, I don't know. If there's anything that I want people to know, it's there is hope, there is recovery. And once recovery and healing, physical, chemical, emotional, spiritual, those things have happened, there is no broken person left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that person is no longer broken in any way, shape, or form. There's not cracks held together with, Scotch tape. It's done. It's over. And they have amazing lives. I see, some of the best things that I have in my life are somebody who I used to mentor from out of town calling me, hey, can you get together for lunch? And they just have these amazing lives with amazing families, and they just do amazing things in their life, And it's like, this is the same person. This is my friend. This is the same person. But all the things they struggled with, those things have now made them
living their potential.
Yeah, they're just living their full life.
Yeah. And
And there's nothing left over from the pornography. It's not like there's some little dark mark or something they have to keep working on, or no, it just the process made them stronger and better.
There are so many very, very good souls out there.
Oh, yeah.
Struggling with this issue.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make them a monster or a horrible
No.
person.
No.
It just doesn't. And
No.
and it's so important that we realize there is hope, there is help. I love the background that you give about the whys. This is what's happening. And I'm fascinated with the brain too. And so when you put all those together and you understand why, at least for me, boy, did it give me a lot of compassion.
Yeah.
Get some hacks and some safety and work through it. And this is where the cravings are, and this is why wet dreams are healthy.
Yeah.
And why it's a
And
good thing.
this is what's normal and not normal in a guy. This is when you
Yeah.
have a reproductive tract issue. And that's standing in your way. Knowledge is power, and hope is always there.
Yeah, love it. So good. So good. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Hopefully this helps somebody.
So here are 10 Thought Pocket takeaways from the episode with Dr. Rance Hutchings, highlighting key points and their importance. 1. Understanding addiction as a dopamine disorder helps remove the stigma of moral weakness, framing it as a brain imbalance that can be addressed with proper steps. It opens the door to compassion, curiosity, and practical steps towards healing rather than self-blame. Number 2, the concept of baseline addiction differentiates between pornography and masturbation, allowing for targeted approaches to overcome each. Dr. Hutchings differentiates between the two and helps create a more precise and effective recovery strategy. This concept helps individuals identify what specifically drives their compulsive patterns and tailor interventions accordingly, making change feel more achievable and less overwhelming. Number 3, the role of dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine fuels motivation, novelty, and reward seeking, while serotonin supports calm, satisfaction, and emotional regulation. Addiction thrives when dopamine is overstimulated and serotonin is undersupported. Recovery, therefore, isn't about eliminating pleasure, but restoring balance so the brain can experience reward without dysregulation. Number 4, understanding the danger zones. Dr. Hutchings identified 2 danger zones, being nonchalant and being in deep shame. Reducing the shame is essential for recovery. Shame keeps people stuck by reinforcing secrecy, isolation, and self-criticism, conditions where addiction thrives. The podcast emphasizes that healing happens faster when shame is replaced with compassion, accountability, and understanding. This allows for slips to become learning moments rather than proof of failure. Number 5, the 3-week goalpost marks neurological progress. After 3 weeks, it represents a meaningful shift where the brain begins recalibrating dopamine sensitivity. While urges may still occur, many individuals notice fewer compulsive impulses and greater emotional regulation. This milestone offers hope and motivation during the most challenging early phase of recovery. Number 6, family support, especially from fathers, matters deeply. Dads, this is a call out for you to show up. Try the approach of open, non-judgmental communication. This can significantly support recovery. Fathers in particular play a powerful role in modeling emotional presence, honesty, and shared struggle. When recovery is relational rather than isolated, individuals feel less alone and more supported in sustained change. This can normalize the process and help remove the shame from what's biologically happening. 7, distinguishing lust from healthy desire. Learning the difference between compulsive lust and authentic healthy desire is key to long-term recovery. Lust disconnects and objectifies, while healthy desire is rooted in presence, mutuality, and emotional attunement. This distinction helps individuals reorient their relationships towards connection rather than escape. Number 8, recovery is possible and sustainable. Dr. Hutchings emphasizes the belief that addiction is not a permanent identity. Instead, it emphasizes that healing is possible, the brain can change, and a meaningful connected life can exist beyond addiction. Hope becomes a motivating force rather than a fragile wish. Number 9, it is important to understand all mental health factors, including anxiety, depression, possible ADHD, or trauma. Conditions such as these can significantly increase vulnerability to addiction due to dopamine dysregulation and impulse challenges. Effective recovery requires treating these underlying factors, not just the addictive behavior itself. Dr. Hutchings emphasizes that education can help break the cycle. Knowledge empowers individuals to understand what's happening in their brain, why certain strategies work, and when to seek help. Education replaces fear and confusion with informed choice, helping people move from reactive patterns to intentional, supported recovery. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hungry for Healing. Remember, winning the race is not about finishing first, but is about rising each time you fall. So get up, get up, get up, and win the race.
The views and opinions expressed on the Hungry for Healing podcast by guests, hosts, or anyone appearing on the show are solely their own and do not represent the views of the Edify Group, its owners, employees, affiliates, or any other individual or organization. All content provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health treatment, therapy, medical advice, diagnosis, or care. If you are in need of support, please seek the services of a qualified mental health or medical professional. The podcast and its creators make no guarantees regarding the accuracy, completeness, or applicability of any information shared and assume no liability for any actions taken based on the content of this program.